All right, welcome to a little episode of Whet Your Palate, where we tell you a bit of a preview of what we just did. Now, we just had a two-part series, the first time we've ever done it, in 2 separate days. But with the one and only Matt Heil, who is the director of fruit supply at this boutique wine company called Copper Cane Wines and Spirits. It was a pleasure having you, Matt. We got to get into the ins and outs of what a whole growing season looks like when you're working with growers, managing vineyards, running logistics. I mean, any highlights and beyond like the kind of stories that are a little close to home and secretive in the Napa Valley? How, but any highlights that we talked about?
Yeah, it's challenging. The environment, every year is a different. It's like talking about art, as we were discussing. Every year is a new framework or a new palette or whatever you want. There's a new canvas to be painted for each year, and every year is different. And I knew guys down the Central Coast that always said, I don't even know what normal is because every year is a different year. He's never seen the same year twice. And it's so true. And the guy's name was Rich Smith. He was down the Central Coast. Really great guy. Passed a few years ago. But I always thought, come on, there's got to be some continuity between years that are similar, but I've never seen it. And it's so true.
I think the continuity is really just the flow of the season, but every year has different challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you outlined and demonstrated a lot of the details of what goes into it. Now, while we did this in 2 parts, there is going to be a third part because we didn't get to go through all of this stuff. So you're getting this little preview for these first 2 parts in the series, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty at some point, too.
Like 6 pages to go, right, or something?
We didn't even touch a page, dude. We just started talking, and it was like...
we didn't even get into the crazy stories. I mean... And,
there's a lot of crazy stories.
But there's also going to be an opportunity for you to drop in the comments to ask questions because we're going to bring those back for when Matt comes back.
Yeah.
And we're going to put him through a huge rapid fire. What'd you say, 2 hours?
It'll be 2 hours of rapid fire questions and probably a whole lot of shit that we are going to have to edit. All right. Go check out the episodes. Cheers.
We're here with the same Matt Heil. Dude, how are you doing?
The same Matt Heil,
yeah. Hung out with Mom and Dad.
So I thought you were
nice.
hungover. I was like, what did you do last night?
It was wholesome.
Nothing. No. We celebrated with a glass of our bottle of Gevrey Chambertin.
I don't know if you're saying that right, but I'll let the Psalms comment.
The Sami commies?
Yeah, I think it's actually Gevrey Chambertin.
Chambertin, yeah.
Chamber with a hard ch.
Yeah, we enjoyed that last night.
No, was it good?
It was wonderful. Dad was like, this is an amazing wine. He said, where's this from? Like, well, we do go through the country game, like playing wine options.
Yeah.
Like, is it New Zealand? Is it Central Coast? Is it West Sonoma Coast? Is it Oregon? Is it California? Is it France? He's like, I'm going with France. Okay.
Nice.
Is this Loire Valley? Is this Burgundy or Loire Valley or Burgundy? And he was like, Loire Valley. I'm like, yeah, nope, wrong again.
Wow.
So anyway, it was kind of funny.
I was trying to prevent myself from getting back into my addiction of mayor of Kingstown. I just can't help myself, dude. I told my girlfriend because we're just so addicted. We've just been burning through all those seasons because of Joe. Have you seen this show?
Nope.
On Paramount? Oh my God, no. Jeremy Renner, dude. Oh, I've always been a huge fan of Jeremy Renner since Hurt Locker. It was like his breakout role. I think it was like 2008. I don't know. You might have to fact check me.
It's a pretty deep series, though. Like you'll get into it and want to watch it. It's good. I mean, it took us like over a year to like get through it, and then I think like we told Chris about it, and then now they've almost finished it in like 2 weeks.
Now, I've got a 21-year-old son and an 18-year-old son, and they decided to put on Mandalorian, gosh knows what season. But
I was going to say, if they watch...
We ended up binge watching like 3 or 4 episodes in a row on like Friday night. It was pretty
If they watch
funny.
Mayor of Kingstown, they're probably going to never want to break the law.
Okay.
So it's about prison.
What's the one that's
I'll tell you what it makes me want to run for mayor, though.
The mayor of St. Helena.
Yeah, dude, just run it like he does, dude.
Just rolling around in a Lincoln Town car all the time, telling people like coordinating fucking shit everywhere.
Yeah, you like show up at crime scenes. You get to go beyond the yellow tape, just fuck around with shit. You're like, what do we got here? Yeah, it's a lot of violence. There's violence.
I don't watch a lot of TV, so
crime.
So where did we leave off?
Yeah,
yesterday we got to jump in. We finished up on the vegetation discussion, talking about all the things that go into
prior to
farm
Veraison.
plan, and how to properly work with not just your own vineyards, but also work with and really be a consultant / buyer of grapes with growers in that case. So here we go into the post-vegetative cycle, into the ripening cycle.
What did you call it yesterday? You had a funny word. It wasn't Veraison. It was something else. It was going to set everybody on their head.
No, I didn't. I think Art said that.
Oh. What was it that Art had said yesterday?
I don't know. Mispronounced Veraison.
Mispronounced Veraison. We called it something else.
Persuasion? No.
Aversion?
Aversion?
Transition.
We already
transitioned.
we're not talking about transitioning.
I'm just throwing it out there. I thought that's what he said. Is that what you said?
We already talked about
Okay,
this.
sorry. All
It's been
right.
more than 20 minutes. I've long forgotten.
Again, I am going
Can we
to
just
reiterate the
take us
point
back?
that we do not put hormones into our vines.
No, we do not.
There's-
No.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No animals are harmed in the process. No.
All right.
Okay,
So,
so get us on track.
moving back
Please.
to post-vegetative cycle, we talked about, if you missed the last podcast segment, we were talking about everything that goes into establishment of a proper vineyard for the season: pruning, shoot thinning, leaf pulling, suckering, initial crop thin for decongestion. Then comes veraison, and veraison is simply the beginning of the vine creating sugar in the fruit, to simplify it.
Yep.
So at veraison, you also see color begin to go into the red fruit. A little bit of yellow character going from those like green hard berries to softer berries just after sizing. And you'll see a little like yellowish tinge. So that's where we know we're into veraison. Now, this is an extremely important part of this season, and we do something, you can call it a green drop, you can call it an 80-90% veraison pass. People have different words for it, but essentially,
Color thinning pass.
you want to talk about what it is?
Sure. So you're basically going through and trying to narrow up the bell curve of what's ripening on the vine. So you've got some clusters that are fully colored and ready to go, or on their way to maturity, and you've got others that are, say, 10, 15, 20% of the crop that's still green and it's not coloring up. It's delayed in maturity. The seeds aren't ripening up properly, and so we'll go through and do a veraison thinning pass to say 75%. I like to use 75 because you want to get going at 50, so when you hit 75%, you get guys to do it, and they're not waiting until you get to 100% color change, and then now the bell curve's kind of wiped out. Like everything's starting to color up. It's hard to determine what's pink or what's green. And
So yeah, you can't. Once it's all colored, you can't tell what is lagging in maturity, right? So it's all going to
if you
look
wait too long.
Yeah, it's all going to look the same. So I agree with Matt, and I think Matt, you got to look at it like you said at 50%, and then start executing at 75%.
Yes.
And then hopefully be done by 90%. Because if you are that, like, just imagine that you're looking at all of your crop load and you see most everything's colored up, but you have 1 or 2 in 10 clusters that are still pink or green. Those are not just going to be delayed in sugar, but they're also delayed in maturity.
Right.
It's your last ditch effort to be able to get a consistent level of maturity throughout the entire crop. Very important pass. Sometimes it's more than 20% of the crop.
Yeah.
But that is what I would say from my perspective, because you might have a strong looking shoot and a good looking cluster, but it'll have delayed ripeness, and you don't want those green elements, even a fraction, like 5% of it, going into the hopper, going into the fermenter, and creating those green flavors. Because again, once they're colored up, you can't tell the difference in maturity unless you taste them, and it's totally illogical to be able to taste every single
And
cluster.
it's hard to find the ones that are not fully colored, that are fully colored up, but they're 80% colored up. But you're looking to just narrow up the uniformity of what you're trying to pick. Uniform ripening of the crop. We're trying to get rid of the outliers that aren't going to make it and get ripe like the rest of the crop. So
What happens if you do taste every cluster?
if you do taste every cluster,
if you were to put somebody in the field.
well, you're going to get a hell of a stomach ache. That's the first thing you're going to get. You're going to get really shitty because if you're eating them, it's not a good thing. It's
Just
like
diarrhea.
It's perfect diuretic. Nothing's better. Grape
yeah.
juice.
Yeah, if
that's-
you're going in for like a colonoscopy, just drink like 2 big glasses of grape juice.
Grape juice and have some tacos from La Luna, and then it's on.
Yeah, dude, that's what we grew up with as kids, dude.
Mm-hmm.
We were like eating just all that like Mexican
No disrespect
food
to
and
La Luna.
grapes.
It's a great place, but
we were cleansing.
get a little pickup.
Dude, I do remember like growing up, around the winery, and we'd get like the first Sauv Blanc in,
Oh, yeah.
and it would go in so like pressed, right? So it's turbid juice, but still it's just juice, no solids. And then they'd slam the chilling on it, right, to cold settle it for a couple days. So you're trying to get all those heavier solids out before you rack it off and then start fermentation. And I just go into the cellar and just put my mouth up to the valve. I just like through a fire hose, just chug grape juice. It tasted so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That I was willing to just blow my ass out for a day.
And it'll do that. It will.
But so here's another thing I want to, that if people don't know this, like everybody's eating table grapes, or most everybody's eating table grapes, right? The ones you buy at the store, they're big, they're plump, they're usually like generally green, red, or sometimes pink. The level of sugar in those is somewhere around like 16 Brix, right? And so if you don't know,
16 to 18, somewhere there.
Brix spelled Brix. It's a measurement of the soluble solids. It's glucose and fructose, and so and they're sweet, right? They got good acid, but they're sweet. They taste sweet. Wine grapes, when we pick them, are oftentimes nearly double that amount of sugar.
Yes.
Lower acidity, but double that amount of sugar. Like getting up to 28, 29, 30 Brix. So you're dealing with one of nature's most effective producers of natural sugars.
Yes.
As far as a plant goes. Do you know of any other plants that produce just naturally from like stage one without any refinement processing or anything that produces much sugar as getting up to like
to go like say sugar beets or sugar cane or like
but that's
like
but you have to
fruits on the
process.
vine, but you have to process it to get it
process
there. You
them.
have to dry it and process it. But
if anybody
plums
knows a
can get
more
up there?
effective plant at producing sugar in a fruit or a
Art.
liquid, yeah, Art, look it up, baby.
Art's gonna look
The
it up.
knuckles just cracked.
I would
Yeah.
say plums and cherries can get way up there too.
Wait, but are you saying that's what's blowing you? That's what was blowing you out?
Yeah,
That's
you
what's
just
going
got
through
yourself.
your
Is that what's blowing you? No.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
I do think it's a lot of the sugar. I think it's everything though. It's just got acid. It's
yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
The pulp and it's got and the acidity. And the other thing is if you're tasting fruit, like we used to call it like tasting at night, and you reach into a cluster in a canopy walking through a field, and as you're say 24, 25 Brix, you can tell whether it's there or not there. And at night you're just tasting what you're tasting. You're grabbing clusters, and if you're tasting fruit that tastes ripe in the darkness, you've got a headlamp on or a flashlight with you. You can tell whether you're in the zone or not. And if you can walk in like 50 yards in a vineyard, and after like the third plant, if the acidity is cleaning the enamel off your teeth, it's probably not ready. That's usually what you can tell. But you know, and it was what we were trying to do is take your natural bias of reaching for the ripe cluster. And if you do it at night, which is really weird because sometimes you'll get in areas where there's mountain lions and they're howling, and that gets a little creepy. But anyway.
All right, you got sugar cane, sugar beets, wine grapes, and then corn. But again,
Thank you, Art.
processing is required on sugar beets and corn. So yeah, sugar cane from a plant perspective, up to 15 to 20% by weight in sucrose specifically.
Yep.
Wine grapes, 18 to 29% sugar concentration. Okay, well that's bullshit. You looked it up wrong. There's if you squeeze, I wonder what sugar cane's Brix are, but you're not able to measure that because you are not measuring glucose and fructose. You are measuring sucrose.
I mean, you can go down a lot of rabbit holes because you start looking at sugar canes, you start looking at corn sweetener or corn syrup. That can get way up there, but you have to process it. It's not occurring naturally.
So you'd mentioned that you can get that enamel ripping acidity, right?
Yeah, clean whatever's on your teeth, right? Clean off.
Yeah,
especially early in the season because the acidity's so high. So you go into a Pinot Noir vineyard, it's like, oh, it's growers squawking, it's 24.5, and you go into it, and the pH is like 3.1, which is a measure of acidity, and the total acidity is like probably 8 or 9, and you taste it, and it's just literally like you're cleaning your teeth with the stuff because it's so acidic.
So
sometimes.
So now that the green drop is done, now it's hang time, right? Now you kind of wait, monitor. You might have some cultural practices going on, little refinements here and there. But say you're getting close to ripeness. What are you looking for? You're walking up and down vineyard rows.
I'm looking for seed maturity. I'm looking for flavor development, uniform good flavor development. So if you're walking through a block of, say, a Pinot Noir clone, and you're tasting 828, and it's got consistently like ripe plum, ripe jammy characters as you walk down a row. And it's not just one row. You've got to walk through, let's say you have a 10-acre block. You're probably going to walk 4 or 5 different rows all the way up and down. So it's all on foot. And that's the way you really get to know a vineyard, whether you're getting close to the zone or not, if it's uniform. So you can walk from one side of the field, it might be really ripe on one side, and as you drop down towards in the swale, the maturity drops off and the flavors aren't quite there. They're more like high-tone fruit, like Jolly Rancher, raspberry, or strawberry, like candy characters. The sugar's there, but it's still got that tart character to it. It's not quite there. And then you can tell with the seeds, I think I might have gotten into this yesterday, is that as the seeds dissociate from the pulp, it's no different than the plum. When you bite into a plum that's really ripe, that pit just separates from the meat of the plum right away in your mouth. If you bite into a plum that's not quite ripe, the meat's still stuck to it, and you're like, okay, it's not quite ready. Probably should have waited. You probably picked plums that weren't, too ripe or ripe enough.
Do you ever get because I have this one weird thing that happens to me that is party foul. Is it
Really, Matt?
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
Who is it?
Completely
They're on the
failed.
podcast right now.
No, we don't want them on the podcast.
Who was it?
It's the other Matt Heil.
It's one of my buddies from I went to school with at Fresno State, Brett Escalera. He used to work at.
Shout out.
So okay, shout out Brett.
You're not on the podcast, sorry, bro.
So okay, there's this one thing, flavors, the breakdown of the breakdown of the skins in your mouth, the separation of the pulp and the seed or from the seed,
Yep.
all those things. But I get this like itchy feeling if the fruit is not ripe, regardless of sugar, regardless of like all the other maturity elements. I get this like itch in the back of my throat if there are still like these green pyrazines in the fruit.
Or the seed tannins can have that green character to them, and they'll be like a phenolic character that's green in nature, and it does bite into your tongue and bites into your palate. You can taste that.
It's just
so
really,
if you don't have that, then you're on your way.
Yeah, it's a really funny thing. Like it's truly like almost like a light allergic feeling.
Yeah.
And so like I just got used to that. Now if I just walked into a vineyard, I'd be like, taste a couple of vines, and if it's like just everything's itchy, I'm like out.
It's kind of like smoke taint when you taste fruit with that's been exposed to fire, and it's got that ashy character in the back of your throat, and you want to gag. It's like the same kind of thing he's talking about.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story. That's an Oregon story. So
But you brought up the seeds too, with maturity, and I know that you've done some tests as well too. That when you're chewing a grape, and then you can kind of spit the seeds out in your hand. Aren't you also looking for things too, like if the seeds are whether they're green or brown?
Yep.
And that's maturity.
You don't want to see.
I used to do that, but I spit them on the ground on the berm, and I'll look on the berm rather than your hands get all sticky and.
I still spit them in my hands.
Yeah, he's still.
You're more man than I am.
No, it's funny. 'Cause
Sometimes
I think you could ask
other people's
you could
hands.
ask 10 different people how they do this, and they're all going to be different, right? So I'll do like a little assessment. I'll okay, there's no adhesion from the pulp to the seed, and then I'll take all the pulp off of the skin. I'll look at the skin, like kind of flatten it out. Does that sound? However that sounds, and then look at it up to the sun and kind of see how consistent that coloring is. And then as you're doing more of a walkthrough, I'll just be popping berries in my mouth, different parts of the cluster, different parts of the vine.
Yeah.
Morning side, afternoon side, interiors, exteriors, whatever. And then what I'll do is I'll suck the skin off of the pulp, and then like put it in my mouth like it's a chew, and hold that skin like multiple skins. So I'll have like 20 skins in my mouth, and I'll generally get the taste during that period, spit all the juice and pulp out, and then spit seeds into my hand and just keep holding the seeds until I've gone through a row, and then assess overall the whole thing. And then as this like chew of skins is in my mouth, then I'll chew it down a little bit more and then spit that in my hand to look at the color concentration coming out, like if it's bleeding out. Because like if you think sometimes color is not so easily attained, I think is how I'd look at it.
You've got to really chew on the berries and the skins to get the color to really dissociate. And if you can, another thing you asked about, if you're determining ripening, is as you're tasting fruit and you're chewing on the clusters. If I spit out and it looks like I'm spitting out blood, like I've got a broken tooth or something like that, it's like, all right, you're in the zone. Like
Yeah.
If you chewed up a little bit on, say, 5 berries as you've walked 20 yards, I hate saying spitting blood, but you're spitting lots of color.
No, but that's
out.
what I say.
And you
Bleeding
spit that
color.
out, then it's
Yeah.
I don't know. And
It's just coming out easy. Like that's when you know, like, okay, we're getting there.
Yeah.
What are all the other little factors? We want to make sure it's perfect.
Yeah, and then measuring the acidity of the pH, the Brix, and the TA, the total acidity of the wine, just to make, or the fruit or the grape juice, and then you run it by winemaking and say, okay, here's where we're at, and sometimes you're like, yeah, get it in now,
And other times they're like, we don't have any space.
yeah.
No,
So you're like
that doesn't happen so much anymore since we got out of Oregon
yeah, that
for whatever reason. I don't know.
Change the staff a little bit.
He's feisty. He wasn't
man!
Anyway,
shots fired.
Shots fired.
yeah. But usually there's always that crossfire that you're in between, like, the grower wants to pick, they're wound up like an 8-day clock. You got winemaking who's like, all right, we're not really sure. You bring in a load and like, okay, let's get going. Or you'll send in a couple loads and we all think we're good. And then Joe comes in to taste the wines, 2 days later after it's soaked in the tank. We're like, you know what, let's hold off a bit. We're like, okay, we're going to hold off a bit. Meanwhile, the growers like turned into a lunatic. They're losing their minds. Like, we started picking, we're at 26 bricks and you guys said go. And now you said no. And now we're going to wait another week. And they're like, pulling their hair out. And
But weather
it's
does play a
interesting.
factor, and you are like
absolutely.
the in-house climatologist or whatever.
Something like that, yeah. I look at a lot of weather data. It's
Why
a
don't
lot
you
of
tell
fun.
us a little bit about your weather data sets that you get? What you use first?
Well, for the last 30 years, when I worked at Mondavi, I met an admiral in the Navy who ran the U.S. Naval Fleet Meteorology and Oceanography Center in Monterey. So the Naval Postgraduate School for the U.S. Naval Academy is in Monterey. One of my growers flew fighter jets and was friends with these guys in the Navy. All of his kids are in the Navy. And he came to a grower dinner, and we had a grower dinner, and I got to meet the admiral he came as the guest of our grower. And we're talking about weather, and he's like, son, you got to check out this website because it's called the USN FNMOC. It's a Fleet Numerical Meteorology and Oceanography Center website, which is a DoD website, so you're tracked on it. Now,
DOW, no.
No, well, yeah, or Department of War, Department of Defense, Department of Offense, I guess DOO, because that's what they're doing. Anyway, anyway, that's a whole nother story. Long story short, so you go in there and we would look at these satellite views of, they're doing weather forecasting for the U.S. Navy fleet, like the whole fleet globally, and they're looking at the whole entire planet with satellites that you can't even imagine. They're all around the planet. But the cool thing was they'd have these weather forecasts that say, when is the front going to come in? So you'd have like the state of California, and the front's coming across the Pacific Ocean, and would tell you within the hours, like, we think with our 85 or 90% probability that it's the front's going to come through Mendocino County at like 10 o'clock at night. It'll be into Napa Carneros by like, say, 2 in the morning, and it'll be coming and whipping into the Central Coast. Like I was on the Central Coast for a long time, but it hit. And we picked within an hour, like hundreds of loads of Chardonnay in Monterey County. And within an hour, the rain front came in over the Big Sur and came down the Salinas Valley. And we got all that fruit picked, tarped, and off to the winery by looking at this weather forecast. Now, the DoD, and I can't fault them for it, the weather forecasting center, it's not shared, it's not open to the public anymore. So, which I get, it's a private thing. I mean,
Art just brought this up. So this is what we were talking about.
I'm sure that some of this stuff is given out, right? But you're saying you can't live track what's going on.
You used to be able to go in here and you could go into forecasts under this website. They're doing forecasts for the U.S. Navy for the fleet. You don't want to have a nuclear submarine come up for there's sort of a resupply mission in like 4-meter waves.
There's some investment on the ocean out there that the Department of War has.
But when you're that dialed in, do you see a big differences like between that and say like what Apple's saying
or
Apple's forecast
or Weather Underground or whatever? Oh yeah, no,
I mean, like you can see things coming that people think it might be sunshine this weekend, and you actually know of a typhoon.
Yeah. So for example, a few years ago up in Oregon, we had a front coming in. It was the end of the year, and we got all the fruit out of Oregon before this like nasty storm came in, and we got like 6 inches of rain like a day later. Like we we'd use this weather forecast as a tool, looked at it and said, okay, we've got to get going. We got trucks up there. We got harvesters going. We got guys with a schedule. We were looping trucks. So we ended up, I think we had 14 trucks, 7 on their way down, 7 on their way back up. We're literally doing a rotation of 14 trucks between Southern Oregon and Central Oregon and the Willamette Valley to get fruit out of there before this front came through. And the last truck went out. I've got it somewhere in an email. I'd have to dig it up. But it was hilarious. We get the last trucks out, and the front was literally coming in. The truck had left like maybe 3 or 4 hours before that. And it was like really fun. I don't want to geek out, but I mean, half your battle is we all work with nature all year long. When the storm door is open, the door is open, and I can't be like, oh, please wait a day. And you don't pray for the weather to change. The weather is the weather, and that's what happens.
There are some years where like you want to wait until the last possible second to pick.
Yes. Yeah.
And you want every bit, and when I say second, like a day or two, right? But last year was not a bad example of it. It's like, hey, if we're gonna pick, if this is right on the edge, if this is like just right there, and we think we got 3 more days of clear, let's leave it out for 3 more days, and then make sure the pick is lined up for that. And it really does matter. I mean, I'd say the apps now that we have access to are decent. Yeah. Maybe not as thorough as what you used to have from the Navy, but
but there's some other websites now that are out there that they're pretty accurate, that tie in with guys from like say Scripps, U.S. U.S. Meteorological Center, NOAA, National Oceanographic Administration, and there are climatologists that work for. There's a guy that used to work at Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, John Lindsay, and so the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant is down in San Luis Obispo County. They use the ocean to cool the reactors, so it's ocean water. So you've got to really make sure that when you're drawing ocean water in and there's a high swell event, you probably don't want your reactor running at a really high efficiency level when you've got heavy sea activity, which could cause problems with the intake pipes or whatnot. Or anyways, but they look at that type of stuff. But he was really good about giving you a forecast of like, here's what I think is going to happen. That was 7 to 10 days outlook and forecast.
So I think that,
and guys from Scripps too. So
is it fair to say that there are many, many times, probably more often than not, where we would nearly be waiting until the day before winter weather sets in, right, to pick?
Absolutely.
That oftentimes becomes the optimum possibility.
Yep.
So yeah, weather does play a key factor, but that hang time, I think that's one of the parts that we need to dive into a little more, because you're getting all of this physiological maturity that's just like, it's free to get. Like your days are longer. It's October now, and your days are shorter. They're cooler. You're not having really any photosynthesis going on. The grapes are just sitting there and beginning the process, effectively, of rotting on the vine. They haven't started that. When
concentrating flavors.
Yeah. So they're dehydrating a little bit.
Maybe.
Well, there are years we get rot on the vine. That's not cool. But But no. So I think that like that, it could be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. Where it's just bonus time, where you're not rushing to get stuff in, and you're getting your best quality fruit by and large at that point of the season.
Absolutely. And there's times where we'll wait on purpose if we know we've got a storm coming through, and it's like, well, it's only going to be a quarter of an inch, and you've got the next 2 weeks are forecast to be dry and warm. Then we wait and get through that, and typically they'll bounce right back. If the canopies are still functionally active, I think we don't give them enough credit for what they can actually do. And the grapevines still have green leaves on them, and they're still, let's say it's 75% of the full colored canopy that you'd see in, say, mid to late October. I think they're still creating flavor precursors, and they're still they're still respiring acids, so the acids are still declining, total acidity is declining. You're still creating precursors for flavor and more color up to a point. After say 25 to 27 bricks, I think it starts to drop off a fair bit, but we've seen really good flavor development in some varieties, like Zinfandel's one where acidity is everything on it when we're picking. Syrah is one where you watch the acidity really strong as the acidity starts to fade, and you see the flavors, there'll be a cross where the flavors are going up, the acidity's coming down. It's really amazing to see, especially on Syrah. Pinot, we've got some clones of Pinot Noir that'll do that too. Cabernet is another fun one. Cabernet, we're looking for the absence of pyrazine. We're looking for those green bell pepper, green asparagus, vegetable type characters that can be there in some years. It's a little bit troubling sometimes, because sometimes, like 1989, everybody kind of pretty much wiped that vintage out. I remember everybody talking about what a terrible vintage it was. Or 1998. 98 is probably the one that's more appropriate to talk about. that it had a lot of green vegetative bell pepper characters, but you waited 12 years later and they're like, oh, this could be the wine of the century. Everybody's like looking at it like, oh my God, this is an amazing vintage. You just had to wait. Well, who's going to wait 12 years to age your wine and then release it? Not many people.
But I think an important point on that one, because you had these back-to-back vintages, right? You had 97.
Yeah.
I was still like a kid, right? Like, so I didn't really pay attention to all this, but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah.
Like during the process of it, right? 97, big crop, warm year, high level of ripeness.
Yeah,
Very
amazing.
showy wines. Like, I mean, I remember tasting those in like the early 2000s and being like, boom, fruit bombs, like Napa Valley Quilt Cabernet, like on steroids.
Yep.
And then you had 98, which everybody, like critics bagged on it. Like if you said 97 was probably a 97, 98 point, if you go to the point system year, you had 98, which was probably like an 85. By critic standards.
Or at 81 or 82,
But
they
then
just knocked it off.
But then 10, 15 years later, you taste those wines, and those big 97s, they fell apart, and those refined 98s worked well. Now, the problem is, it's the dilemma, right? Who's aging their wine for 15 years?
And nobody I know.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a few. There's collectors that do, but that's how much of the population is doing that. So,
yeah, so they got to be showy, and also, I think, have some age worthiness. I've never been a fan of aging cabs in either case. Like, that's very rare. I think Pinot Noir does a better job of doing that, but it really comes down to acidity, which, again, in your point of 98 had higher acidity.
Yes.
For cab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could that be a rule to live by if you have a wine that's very high in acidity from the get-go? That's something if you held on to that you should age for a while for that to like kind of break down, for that to smooth out? Or
I think you first need to be an enthusiast to even want to do that, like a big enthusiast. And from a collector point of view,
like if you got a case, and you have the first bottle, and you're like, well, I guess I'll see these other 11 and 15 or 10 years unless I want to.
I mean, I always worry that if I'm aging wine for like 15, 20 years, that like I might die and then I wouldn't have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And like, that happens to a lot of people's wine cellars.
But your kids would.
Well, given that they like wine. No, what I was going to say, this happens a lot. Like, people will have these like 5,000 bottle wine collections.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll try to drink it away and whatever else over time and share it with friends, and those probably all make great memories, as they should. But at some point, they pass away, and the kids inherit this collection.
Yeah, and they're not into wine.
They'll bring an auction house in, or in many cases, like a sommelier or a restaurant group. Their sommelier will go in and be like, all right, I'm valuing all this at whatever $100,000. If I were to buy it wholesale, I'll give you $100,000. I'm going to do a 3 or 4 times markup, and I'm going to have this massive cellar of like these crazy ass wines, and immediately have like a Wine Spectator worthy wine list.
Yeah.
And it happens like all the time. Those are the boomers. Yeah, we love you, boomers.
Yeah,
we do. Love you, mom and dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick is called. I think the next step is kind of it's an interesting one, because
harvest. Yes.
All of a sudden you're not just calling picks. You're not just monitoring harvests and some of the shit you have to monitor, because there are times when people do shady shit. Which we'll get into that, but then you also become a dispatch logistics manager for trucking companies.
Yeah. Coordinating the schedules. I mean, it's cool. I'm blessed to have worked with the winemaking staff that I got interacted with starting in 2013. That crew all the way up and through this year has been wonderful to work with, all of them. Some that are here, some that are not here. But in general, it was a really good experience. The challenging times are like there's the top 5 things that happen during harvest that you can't control, that are guarantees, like Murphy's Law. Like the second you start shaving at 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll get a phone call from an angry Irish winemaker complaining about something. And by the time you're done talking, the shaving cream will have dried on your face, and you'll have to, you get off the phone, you're good, you make your notes, you wash the shaving cream off, and you lather up with shaving cream to shave. All right, now it's like 5:15 because somebody's been rambling on the phone for a bit. And then you start to shave, and they guarantee you somebody's going to call with a trucking issue or a harvest issue or something like that. By the time you get off the phone the second time, you will have shaved, the shaving cream will dry on your face. Now you have a red rash, and you don't shave for like 2 or 3 days. And
Sounds like you have some experience with this, man.
Oh yeah, well, it's no different than like if the second you cook dinner in your house and you get done with your dinner, the phone will ring and you be on the phone, multiple calls, and your dinner's freaking cold. And you put it back in the microwave. The second it's done, I guarantee you the phone's going to ring again, and you're going to end up with your cold food. And you just basically eat cold food, and that just is what it is. It's just harvest. It's just one of those things, just happens. But it is interesting. It's fun to interact. You get the trucking schedule set up. Other challenges at harvest are like it never fails. Same thing. Irish guy calls around 5 in the afternoon, and he's like, "Where's the truck? You told me to be here at 4:45." And then you call the truck driver. Well, he just left. Well, when did he leave? Well, I don't know. And you're like, okay, well, I need to find out. So then you're calling multiple people to try and find this truck that's somewhere between Cloverdale and Rutherford. And by the time you find out that the truck is 5 minutes away from the winery, the winemaking staff has completely lost its mind and mad at you because the truck's not there. The cellar operator, he's a really great guy who dumps the fruit in the hopper. I'm not saying, great dude, but he gets a little chirpy, and everybody's a little bit wound up.
On edge.
And then when the truck does show up, like, you don't dare go by the winery because someone's going to throw a rock at you or something because, how dare you? It's Friday. We had one load, and you couldn't get it to the winery in time. It's always a challenge, but it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing I can do. I can't control the trucks, but,
So
there's that fun line.
So that's early morning, right? But then you've also got late nights. Harvest is an interesting time because you never know what hours you're going to need to be working. But there are some stories that, we've kind of had some experience with this, but needing to monitor growers that, you learn real quick who you want to work with, who you don't want to.
Yep.
Because there are good operators and bad operators in every business in the world, right? But there are people, and we'll mention any names, that you would have to be out there in the vineyard during the pick to monitor the blocks.
Watching them.
You've done this a lot more than I have. Watching them pick the blocks that are contracted to you.
Yep.
Because if you have a contract with them that's a higher price than whatever the rest of their fruit that may be unsold is, then they're going to say, like, I'm going to max out the contract.
Yeah. And let's say their estimate's, 250 tons, which is, let's say keep it simple. It's like 11 trucks. But your estimate would say that's the contract max. On a contract, we have maximum so they don't exceed the contract maximum of what it is per acre or the amount of tons that we want to get from the blocks we're contracted from. So let's say they have 180 tons out there, but they've got other blocks that are at a lower price, and the temptation to jam your contract with lower fruit that they have at a higher price is very tempting and real. So the fun thing I've had in my career is I'll be up looking at vineyards in Sonoma County, and you talk to the guys in the Central Coast. Again, I'm not naming names at all, but you make a phone call, and they're like, "Where are you at?" I'm Russian River tonight. I'm like, "Oh, okay. How's pick going?" "Oh, we're doing great. We're picking 8 loads of fruit from a ranch." And if they're a shifty operator, and that, the best thing in the world is like you can leave Sonoma County at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, check all your picks, and drive to the Central Coast and get down there at like 3:30 in the morning. And you show up, and they look like they've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And they're just like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I don't know. Where are the harvesters?" "Well, they're all here." I'm like, "Oh, really? What's the one over there?" "Oh, that's in so-and-so's block. We're picking for so-and-so." "Oh, really? Where's the truck that you're loading for so-and-so?" And they're like, well, it's over there." And you're like, "Oh, okay." So then you take license plate numbers down.
Wow.
Yeah, because then you can like track like, all right, there's 6 trucks. Let's say you're picking 7 loads, but there's 7 trucks there, and they're picking for another guy. It's like, well, where's the other truck? And then you like catch them, and you're like, okay, well, that fruit's not mine. Just so we're all clear.
You're taking down that license plate because if that license plate
license
shows up
plates
at the
of all the
winery,
trucks.
then that was the fruit that was supposed to be.
There's stuff in the contract with
Yep.
maybe unsold fruit from another block. Now, in times like this in the industry, I think it's quite a common thing. You really need to be watching.
Especially in the downturn that we're in right now.
Yeah.
It's very tempting to go through, and you've got a 3-load contract of, say, Chardonnay, and but you've got 150 tons of Chardonnay unsold, and the estimate for your blocks is 2 loads. It's easy to take a load off of that block if I don't show up, and you end up getting your 69 tons or 3 trucks of fruit off of that. And that's lame, but that's
the proper way to do that would be like, hey, we had a light crop on the block. It's not going to max out tonnage. Would you like me to pull from another block and come out and take a look at it? And then you can have a whole other negotiation for kind of spot market stuff if you wanted to.
Right.
But the opposite's also true. And I do want to preface all of this by saying that just about all the growers we work with. I mean, we've had some bad ones in the past, bad seeds.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I'd say we've really weeded those out. Like, you get rid of the toxic seeds and then you move on. So it happens on the other end of the spectrum too. When you have a really high market, like it was only 3 years ago when Napa Cab was at a high market, and you have low yields, and they're the growers picking into your blocks because you have a 5-year contract at a price that was, it's got adjustments, whatever else, but it was a high price when we wrote the contract, and all of a sudden shit goes through the roof, and it doubles. I'm not kidding. Like it doubles in the price per ton,
and suddenly you're not getting the fruit you thought you were going to get.
And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we don't have that 24 tons anymore. It just seemed a little bit light. We got 8 tons for you," and you're like, oh, "Fuck you guys," Especially in those moments where that's when you need the fruit.
Yeah.
Like, and now we're in a moment when like the industry doesn't need the fruit.
And a little side
so they're
note,
trying to stuff the contracts versus pull back on the contract. So it's always this like accordion effect. And so it goes both ways. But again, good operators versus bad operators.
Good operators,
it's just not worth working with the bad operators. If you guys want a list, go to this website. I'm kidding.
We'll do it in post. Just have the names going down.
I'm not vindictive, but I keep score. I think you know that. So anyway, and on a side note thing, like in vineyards throughout Napa County, mainly Napa County, the Central Coast, but Napa and Sonoma counties. I can't comment on Mendocino Lake, but I'm sure there's areas. But people would mark their end posts with what winery. So you have row 1 to 30 is for Copper Cane, and rows 31 to 50 are for Pijou, and then rows 51 to 75 are for Camus. So to rewind the clock back to 2014, I get a call from Joe, and he says, "We're going to start looking for Cabernet." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And I don't even know what the program is. It's turned into Quilt. This is a true story, and it's at harvest, and I'm in Santa Maria, and I remember it clear as a bell that I get this phone call, and it's from Chuck. And he's like, "Hey, Matt, what's going on?" I'm like, "I'm Mountain Vineyards." He goes, "Oh, me too." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, where are you at?" He goes, "I'm in Napa Valley." He goes, "Say, Matt, is Joey buying any Cabernet this year?" And I'm not going to lie to Chuck, Joe's dad, Chuck. I mean, give me a break. That ain't happening. I'm going to be truthful. And so I said, "Well, yes, we are." He says, "Oh, really?" He goes, "So where are you buying at?" And then I tell him all the appellations and the areas. And he goes, "Oh, any vineyards around the Oak Knoll area?" I go, "Yeah, I mentioned the vineyard." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Say, how many tons you buy?" And I tell him X number of tons, and it's like quite a bit. And he's like, "Oh, small program." I'm like, "Yeah." So I answer all the questions properly. He says, "So I noticed, your end posts are marked with, it says Copper Cane on them." And at the time, we had picked up some blocks that were contracted, perhaps to Camus, and they weren't renewed. And so we picked up these blocks. And so the end post says Copper Cane on one end post, and then across the avenue, it says the row, the other one says Camus. And so I tell him that, and he says, "You mind changing that?" I'm like, "I'll look into it." Half an hour later, Joe calls. "Hey, Matt, how's it going?" "Good." He goes, "So you talked to my dad?" I go, "Yep." He goes, "What'd you say?" I told him everything. I answered every question he answered properly. So we went through on all of our vineyards that year and changed all the end posts from Copper Cane that were all in all of our blocks. I swear, it just was crazy. Every single block we had that was, of course, they're all right next to the Camus blocks. And so we had to change them to like CU, which is the elemental symbol, or CC, so that Chuck wouldn't see that it said Camus or his people. I don't know. I mean,
I think it actually irked Harvest more than anything. I don't know.
Oh, is that where?
That's what I'm imagining.
No, that's a shock.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's a person, by the way, not a time frame. So
no, she's a great.
You guys are getting the
she's
local
a
dirt.
Great young lady. She does. Yeah. She's really very, very passionate and very.
She's
very,
also
very thorough.
She's also on TikTok. So I think it's Harvest Vino. She does like. Yeah, she like does like yoga in her videos, and
I thought you're the only one on TikTok. You're like the king of TikTok.
She's actually one of the other few that I'm like, good for her for getting out there. It's just, and Harvest, I'm saying this directly to your face if you're here right now. Your content really resonates well with like this slightly hippie, lost, like middle-aged white woman, and I think you're doing good stuff. I like it. I think I've told her this. Just a little more refined, a little more fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Find the joy. Find the joy. Yeah.
I think what Joe is trying to say is he would like to collab.
Oh, there you go.
I would actually. I'd collab with her.
There you go.
Yeah.
That actually would be fun for you guys for a podcast in
She's
future.
a killer mountain bike rider. I do.
Yeah.
recall.
Oh, right
yeah.
there.
There you go.
Well, hey, you and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Hey, I don't even want to start. That's like men beating, that's like WNBA versus the NBA, all right?
But I think this is what's great is
Here we go.
She is a strong writer.
wow.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting for people listening that aren't from here, don't live around here, or whatever, to kind of get this behind the scenes that you're have neighbors. You're basically neighboring in these blocks,
And the community
And
is
there's
very tight here.
I'll say there's competition, but friendly competition by and large.
So it's
Yep.
Like where you're like, oh, that fucker's like he's getting into these blocks.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is harvest.
The favorite childhood smell.
So I actually think like this is a good informative one. She does have a lot of good informative stuff. This is off the Camus Cab site. Yeah. But she does stuff in the vineyards. Like it's pretty like some of it's really funny. I think because, and she's got her fan base and all that. But like, hey, there's not enough people in this industry doing shit like that. And it's like expose people to. I mean, just like your story from yesterday when we were talking about how you got into it. It's like, get out there and work at a tasting room, see if it like tickles your fancy, and then work into the vineyards, work into the winery, whatever. Get to know this industry, because I guarantee you it's a hell of a lot better than sitting in a desk for the rest of your life talking to bankers and counting beans. Like, you're gonna be happy.
Yeah. And there's a lot of fun to it, whatever field of agriculture you're in. But the wine industry is really amazing, and the people that you meet are really amazing too. And one thing we didn't really hit on yesterday is the people in the field that are pruning it, they're picking it, they're leaf pulling, they're shoot thinning, they're doing the Veraison thinning pass, the crop thinning pass, the going through and removing pest or diseased fruit from the vineyard before the machine comes in there to machine pick or the hand crew shows up. There's this base of folks that largely Hispanic, that do a majority of the work in the industry, and it's absolutely amazing. We support the Napa Valley Farmworker Foundation in the pruning contest. I think there were 150 contestants this year, and you have folks from the field that have worked in the industry for a very long time, pruning grapevines, and their families are there rooting them on as they're pruning the 10 vines that are being judged at for speed and accuracy and how clean they're pruning. And it was really, really cool to see, So that's one thing. I just have to bring that up, that when you see a crew in the field and they're singing as they're picking, or you get to a cellar, like you show up and Polly's got the guys wound up and everybody's singing and they're doing pump overs and crushing fruit, and there's this happiness and joy and pride that it's just really amazing to be a part of it. Amen. It's really cool. So
I think that's something that we should point out, is that a lot of, if like people come up here during harvest and they see these crews out in the field, and predominantly Mexican descent, right?
Yes.
And generally first generation that have come here.
Yeah.
But they're not like people just think, oh, it's laborers.
Right.
It's like people have a passion for this. They get into it. This is not where they usually start. And then, they get into America, they want a better life for themselves, and then they work up the ladder. They get to vineyards, and that's where I think a huge opportunity arises. And just look at what the proliferation of vineyard management companies' ownership is.
Yeah.
Even wineries popping up that are Mexican owned.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see, right? They're living the American dream.
Absolutely.
I can even say that like my early career in the vineyards, I was working with a lot of Mexican guys.
Yep.
Working with them.
Yeah.
And then I'd bring them into the cellar. And now we've got cellar masters and assistant winemakers that started in the vineyard and have worked up to like, now they've got, family, bunch of kids.
Yep.
And they're living their life, enjoying it, teaching their kids like not just their own culture, but what hard work is, and then also the culture of America, which is the greatest melting pot. It's really cool to see. Like it's still alive and well. That's one thing I love about, California agriculture in general, but Napa Valley in particular, and I'd say Sonoma too, really has this amazing tie with the Mexican community.
Yeah.
Where, like it's, I know that there was a period of time when like they were called derogatory terms and whatever else, like that, back in probably 75 years ago, maybe even somewhere like that, where every generation of immigrant comes in and like there's some dickhead who's going to come up with a slur, talk shit for a number of years, and then over time it's like, win them over with like your culture, like, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, fuck, I'd rather hang out with the Mexican guys than I'd hang out with most white people.
Word.
And and the amount of the level of the work and the dedication is just really, really cool. And it's cool to see guys like, hey, I met you out in the field, and you told, he was like, there was a gentleman I met a few years ago who was working for a harvest company, working as a tractor driver, had operated a machine harvester. I gave him my card. And I said, let me know if you're interested, because I know of other companies that are looking for, machine harvest operators. And later, like several years later, he's working for one of the management companies here in the area. And he was a guy who was just, hey, middle of the night, like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and they hand him a card. And then you get a call from him later, and then, you connect him with somebody else and say, hey, call these guys because they're looking. And it was really, really cool. And then I met him like 3 years later, and he's like driving a machine. He's like, hey, he stops the machine, jumps out, shakes my hand, gives me a hug. It was kind of cool. It's not about me. It's just like, you see these folks, and man, they're grinding. They're trying to find their way also. So back to giving people a chance. Yeah, it's really kind of fun to see in our industry folks that give people chances. So, or I wouldn't be sitting here today. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and I always got kicked for social, and capturing that content of harvest, and being there at like Taylor Lane, and it's like 4 or 5 a.m. and they're all kind of gathering right before the pick.
Yeah,
and it's like the sharpening of tools. It's like all these like kind of like
cool
thing. It's like this moment, and everyone's getting ready, and then you would just hear this like war cry almost. You know, what I mean, it was just like and then they just like, and everyone just rush out there. And it's just like it's like a sport. There's just so much dedication and heart in it, and then the speed and the accuracy of like getting those clusters and the bit. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome
What's really cool is that like there is this competitive nature, but also this this drive where like a picking crew. So there's a lot of mechanical harvesting, and it's all very quality, but some things aren't set up for that, and so you'll still have a manual crew come in. And so they'll generally have an option. They almost always choose one of these of hourly wages, or or tonnage. And so they'll have a crew be like, all right, I'm the foreman. I got 10 guys with me, and they're like, how many fucking tons are we gonna get? We're getting paid $500 a ton. How many can we do in 6 hours? Yeah. And these guys are running like back and forth, getting as many tons as they can. They can make so much freaking money during harvest, like just by hustling.
The bins.
And then they sit down like right around lunchtime, because you usually start, probably like late morning. Usually start very early and try to get everything off that they possibly can. And then it's like the classic, just like they're just hanging out, grabbing a quick bite, having a Corona or whatever. They're just, and you could just tell like they just like ran a marathon.
Yeah.
And they're just proud as shit of themselves.
Oh, yeah. And we had our last harvest I was out, we were picking Sauvignon Blanc over in Childs Valley, and we had 3 different crews, and there was a bet. Whoever was the best crew, there was a beer bet. I don't know how much beer was involved, but the team that won outpicked the other guys, and they track them by when they're bringing in macrobins of fruit for Sauvignon Blanc, and they're weighing them, and they know crew 1's got, I don't know, let's say it's 10,000 pounds, and crew 2 was 8,000 pounds, and crew 3 was 7,500 pounds. So crew 3, I think, had to buy beer for crew number 1. But they all embraced, like crew 1 embraced crew 3 because they were trying, but it was like a moment of joy. At like 3 a.m, they just finish up, and they're like, all right, who's got the totals? And they're all like waiting around. There's guys like calculating it all out, like who's going to win. And so like crew 1's like thinking they got it, but they're not sure. And so they're on edge. Crew 2 and 3 three's not sure that they beat crew 2. Crew 2's not sure whether they're, they caught up with crew 1, and they announced it later, and then the crews, they're all going crazy, and it was a moment of joy. It was really fun to see. So, but there was pride. And these guys are all H2A guys from down in Mexico, came through legally through the U.S. system to come into the United States with a work visa and worked. And they're all from the same village. There were like 45 guys, men and women. And they're really cool.
And they're looking for that opportunity to become American citizens too.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're so thankful to be here. And it was really, really cool to see. And then the work, they're just going for it. Like you said, when it goes like start, man, they're running. These guys are hustling. So you don't see that too much. And a lot of people, I wish, folks that enjoy wines could understand what starts from the very beginning at pruning through the whole season, the amount of work and effort goes in just to get the fruit picked into a bin, if it's hand-picked or machine-picked, and into a winery. And then the amount of work that goes on in the winery to make it into wine. And then you get the whole production crew. All the guys have got to get it bottled and patiently waiting for the blend to be done so they can get on the bottling line and then hit and get bottled, and then off it goes. So anyway.
You know, I mean, most of the work's in the vineyard, and then the winemaking just kind of does itself because we're non-interventionists, as everybody knows. I'm totally
Completely
kidding.
natural winemaking.
that is a joke.
No, but that is a joke. Yeah. So, but you mentioned all of the work that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
Through growing, through winemaking, all that. So I heard this interesting point just recently that the value of a glass of wine and the value of a nice glass of wine and the value of a cocktail are about the same at a bar or restaurant, right? Let's just call it $20, 15 to 20, depending on where you're at on like the kind of upscale. You're pushing the limits of people's comfort level to, in general, buy that cocktail at that price or that glass of wine. There is a showmanship to making a cocktail that people want to see.
Yeah.
That's being made by hand right in front of you.
Yeah.
And people feel like they're getting value from that performance.
Right.
And that's, I think, one of the issues wine is having right now is that nobody sees the value of everything that went into making that bottle when it's just somebody opening it up and pouring the glass and like, what value is this? Like, I mean,
Maybe serve your Chardonnay in like a shaker thing with ice cubes, and then like, here's your Chardonnay. And you.
But I also think there's an opportunity for showmanship there, like in the service world where I don't know if it's taking one of those Venturis or something and saying like, hey, would you like me to present this to you in a Venturi? And you pour the glass through this thing, it aerates, and you explain it in the period of time. But like, I think that like I thought that was a really interesting point where you're looking at like because you can't convey every bit of effort that goes into a bottle of wine.
No, not
at a
not
bar or
dinner
tableside. Yeah.
No, but if you make the wines like the way we make wines that are very fruit forward, very expressive, very intense, good structure, a lot of intensity and depth, but they're ready to drink and enjoy. And you pour one of those wines versus a wine that is made, that's an aged wine, but you're looking to just enjoy a glass of wine, but yet it's got really strong acidity and the tannins and the oak is really overpowering. It's not really ready to drink right now. It's like something you want to have with like a filet mignon or have with a really big hearty meal. It's not something you want to have as a wine by the glass at the bar. I think that's the challenge. The beauty that we have is we bring that to the table to get people to enjoy the wines that are presentable and enjoyable in the now.
I think they're also very authentic, and I think that's what people are seeking out there, especially with, we hear from like the younger generations. These stories are true stories. The heart that are going into these wines, it's all true. Like from what we're what we're expressing right now.
Yeah.
This wasn't a think tank. This wasn't some marketing play.
Right.
Like this is all kind of like real life. So I think it's nice to, as much as we can, continue that storytelling and finding different ways to get that kind of message out, because I think that's what's important too.
Anything that's inspiring, right? I mean, and that I'm not just saying that from a marketing perspective, but like that's what we're all looking for. We're all seeking for something that is, it's like, take it as art, right? Like, so Rachel doesn't understand art. Like, I mean, I generally don't either. I'm like a banana duct taped to a wall that really
gorgeous.
But she saw this thing, like we were on a sales trip and we were down in Southern California, and I'm referred to as like the bear, right? Whatever, from however I got that. And there was this like this little like wax workshop. It was like really interesting, really weird in this town. And she walked by it, and it was this little like wax statue of a girl riding on the back of a bear. And so she tries to get a hold of this artwork to like see if she could buy it. and the lady's like, oh no, we're not selling that. But she's like, I don't know. That was like the first time art ever spoke to me. And it was like, yeah, well, I mean, that's what it is. So now you're inspired.
Yeah.
Same thing with wine, or the story that comes with wine, or whatever, like the story on the back label of wine, and people still read that stuff. But it's about like, once you get into it, once you get inspired by one thing, then you go deep.
Yeah.
And then you learn about it. And then hopefully you come and visit wine country, and then you get to see it real life.
Yeah, and getting people out to enjoy the vineyards, and if you could do a tasting experience where you're out in the vineyard, like overlooking a vineyard or next to a vineyard where you can actually see where it's happening. People are just looking for simple and fun, and they want to get out and see like Napa Valley, enjoy a glass of wine, enjoy the view. If they can walk out in the vineyard, then great. If they see sheep running around the vineyard or whatever,
a lot more sheep now.
There's a lot of sheep
there's
now,
a
man.
lot of sheep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine that there's now like there's more business of the sheep around here, that there's people that are just taking the same sheep and just kind of taking them to all these other wineries, especially if you're on 29. They love to have the sheep out there because
they do,
all the tourists is taking that road and being like, oh, Instagram photo, right?
Yeah.
But this was something that,
They're
and
taking
I'm not
care
trying
of
to toot our own horn, but it was something that, like the first time I saw it was actually at Taylor Lane,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was at like our vineyards there.
Yeah. But that was full time. We were able to graze them out there full time.
Yeah, you had
But
them there out there.
But I mean, I
and
think
that was years and
that was since we went vertical on the trellis. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Trentino.
Well, we still have so much stuff to go through that we're gonna have to do another segment like in the next few weeks or month or two.
We didn't even talk about
Yeah.
the wine
Because
market.
we literally just got through some sidebar conversations, but like mostly about like the growing season and the basics of what you do and where you came from. So, because we got to go to another thing, so let's shut this down now, and everybody that's listening, come back for the next chapter of Matt Heil. Where we actually get into all of this shit and some of the fun stories
The other
and
5
experience
pages.
the trials and tribulations of working in the vineyards and in wine for 4 decades almost. No,
Yeah, it's been 36 vintages. that I've
okay,
had since
almost 4
1990.
decades.
So, yeah.
I don't mean to
It's
age
weird.
you.
I'm in my 4th decade. That's bizarre.
In the 4th
Right.
decade. All
And
right.
This is also a chance. I just want to chime in while you're, smashing that like button and you're sharing and subscribing. Go ahead and hit up the comments. I mean, what do you want to know about right now from Matt? Like,
Ooh, that's good.
I mean, we can dive into anything. He's the professor here, so.
Hey, you got some off the wall questions? Ask
yeah,
him
come on,
something
Cork
that's going
Dorks,
to make
where you
him
at?
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and let's hear what you got.
Because I will say, Matt, as he has said a few times in this, extremely open book and honest to his core. So if you got some salty stuff that you think might come out of his mouth, man, ask the question. That's all you got to do.
Is that cool? We can put you on the spot because I'll just bust them out,
Yeah.
and then we can read them all off.
I'll try and be kind.
It's just going to be 2 hours of rapid fire.
Try
Yeah,
and,
if you guys do, we're gonna put you on the spot, dude.
there's a lot of content
You
there.
will come back,
yeah.
though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'll come back. Not a problem.
All right. Till next time. Thanks,
All
Matt.
right, thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, thank you.
Peace.